I try to counsel young brothers, man, that are coming up, that are going through the same issues. Because first of all, whenever young men I know say, hey, I'm having a baby or I got a baby on the way, I tell them all the time, listen, women change after they have kids. Women change after they have kids. Prepare yourself for that, because nobody told me that. Yeah. You're now rocking with another episode of Grown Man Talk with Quasi the Artist. Yo, special shout out to everybody that's been, checking in and tuning in with me, man, these last couple episodes, man. I definitely appreciate the love. You know what I mean? This is dope, man. This is really dope, man. And it's really turning into a little movement, man. I got people that be hitting me, yeah, man. It's turning into a little movement. So I appreciate y'all, man, for sure, 100%. This episode 4, is called Fatherhood. And what I want to do is share with the younger brothers coming up behind me some of the goals, some of the obstacles that I went through being a father. And don't get it twisted. I'm not an expert as to being. If I feel like you're gonna always go through different things, there's different stages of being a parent. There's the childhood, teenage years, and then eventually the adult time, parenting as an adult. For me, right, I never wanted any of my kids to go through anything that I went through, because I remember what that trauma, what that pain felt like. So I wanted them to always have something better. I messed it up from go. I messed it up from go. When my daughter's 17, my oldest daughter's 17, Amani. When Amani was, and her mother was still pregnant with her, I got locked up. She was like 2 months pregnant. She was 8 weeks pregnant. I got locked up. And I didn't come home until she was 7 months pregnant. But the thing with that is, that whole time that God sat me down to get my mind right, to get my spirit right, I didn't use that time to prepare myself mentally for this new chapter in my life. I didn't prepare myself for that. And listen, man, I spent that whole 7 months stressing about when I'm coming home, commissary, needing an address to parole to when I get out. I spent that whole time stressing myself about that. And I didn't prepare myself mentally for what I was about to get into. When she came home, I still didn't prepare for that. I didn't prepare my mind. And then click in my mind how serious what was about to go on. I was just like, all right, I got a baby mother. You know what I mean? It's just, I didn't understand what was actually taking place and going on. So, the day, it didn't really click on me. It didn't really click to me, actually, until the day she went into labor. When she went into labor, her water broke and everything. I remember being at the hospital, and I was just like, oh man, what's about to happen? You know what I mean? I had quit smoking cigarettes. I wasn't a cigarette smoker at this time, but I had stepped outside. I brought me a pack of cigarettes, and I started smoking cigarettes at the hospital, right? Because I was nervous. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't smoke no. I just needed to smoke. And at that time, I was being a good boy on parole because I just came home. I was only home for 2 months, so I was just like, I'm not gonna smoke no weed. I ain't playing with these people, right? So I smoking cigarettes and I'm stressing, and then Amani comes. She comes, it's joyful, it's beautiful, it's a beautiful thing. She looked just like me. She's my twin, right? And I remember people used to always say, yo, when you have a baby, you know what I'm saying, you should get a paternity test. Nah, man, I'm gonna tell you straight up like this, man. Us as fathers, or at least I know from me, I knew she was mine just when the first moment I looked at her. When I looked in her eyes, I was like, oh, yeah, that's mine. It was undeniable. I was like, oh, that's mine. And just looking at her eyes, man. And I didn't really understand. I go into panic mode because I said in other episodes how I said before how I used to always I used to panic and do the first thing that came to mind. So I just started hustling. Like, right? I just like, forget this job. I'm a hustle. And I was hustling, getting money, but I wasn't doing nothing with the money. I was still being really selfish. I was, buying clothes. Money had a bunch of baby clothes. You know what I'm saying? I was trips and everything. I didn't even think to go get my license. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even think, I need a driver's license. Maybe we could get a car or something. Nah, I was still, it was stupid. So I get locked up when Amani's 9 months. And then that's when it all began to sink in. That's when it hit me that, you're bugging. You can't live life like this. It took for them when they closed that. I'm telling you, when they closed that door, when they locked me in, that cell door closed, boom, that's when it hurt. I felt that. I was mad at myself. I was angry at myself. I was so angry at myself. I was fighting with the police, was in there fighting with the COs. I was getting pepper sprayed. Got gassed, going back and forth to the hole. I remember they was telling me one time I couldn't do something, and I was fighting with them, and he was like, you can't do it. And I told him, well, go suit up then. And I put my daughter's picture in my sock because that's all I had. That's all I cared about. And I was just like, you know what? I'm taking this with me. We're going to fight, and I'll go to the hole. And I'm going to be real transparent. This particular piece of this sentence, I contemplated suicide. Yeah, I contemplated it because I was angry at myself, and I started to feel like, you start to hear the whispers from the enemy. You ain't nothing but a failure. This is all you're going to do with your life. This is all you're going to, and it hurt. It hurt me so much when I went through that. I didn't do anything. I didn't cut myself. I didn't do anything. It was a thought in my head. I was just like, well, maybe I should just, maybe I should just do this and just rid everybody of this headache of myself. I ended up going upstate. I went upstate, and where they sent me at was like 7 hours away from Allentown. I didn't even know Pennsylvania was that big, Sent me 7 hours away from Allentown. And I was just like, man, I ain't gonna see my daughter. My mother wasn't coming up there. And I was just like, I didn't have, no contact with her until I came home. She was 3. I got a picture of her, but the day after I came home, it was like the next day I came home. And I went to take a picture, and she's leaned away from me in the picture like this. Cause she didn't really know me like that. You know what I mean? And it was just, but then as time went on, we got closer, She used to, I used to get my daughter on the weekends. And because I wasn't stable, I was just coming home. I came home, I got the job, I was working the job, I was renting me a little studio apartment. I didn't have a car yet. I didn't get the car till the following year after I came home. But it was kind of, you know what I mean? So I was okay. I was okay with getting on the weekends because it was just like, listen, I work during the week. I don't have no car. I don't really like her in my spot like this really too much. So I was okay with the week being the weekend, getting accustomed to being a father. You know what I mean? Which was cool. Fast forward, then I met my wife. I met my wife while I was at work, and we get together. We're together for I think it was a year or two. I'm not mistaken. It was probably a year, maybe 2. We was together. Then she gets pregnant with my son. And when she got pregnant with my son, that's when things started to shift. And I like to say my daughter's mother started moving funny with me being a father. Certain little things started to happen. Certain things started to happen. We might have been together 2 or 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, before this. But certain little things started to happen, and I always pinpoint it back to when my son was actually born. My son's 11 now, so when he was born, that's when all chaos and everything just began to happen. In regards to me being a father, being a father figure, being there for my daughter. And my son was a baby. I went into super panic mode again because I had lost my job, and I decided, I'm gonna go back to school. I was in school. Then that's when she got pregnant. And when she got pregnant, I was thinking I was on unemployment or something. I was okay with that. I was like, I'm on unemployment. It's not much, but I'm going to school. I'm gonna figure this out. Then when she got pregnant, I was like, I gotta get money. That's the first thing my mom went to. I was like, I gotta get money. I went right there, like as if I didn't just learn that prior. You know what I mean? Like as if I didn't just learn what that would cause. So what I started doing, I started hustling again. Now, I wasn't as wild as I was before my daughter was born. That's why I always say my kids civilized me, because I wasn't as wild. I started to think, I gotta make it home for, I got kids. I don't want to die young with my kids. So I kind of like dialed down a little bit with the wildness, just a smidget, because I was still, but I wasn't as like, I wasn't as turned up as I was before. Like before, I didn't care about nothing. It was just like no stop. And nothing was off limits. But then I started to have this think before I do certain things. And I got locked up with my son again. With my son, I think he was 9 months, if I'm not mistaken. He was a baby. I was on the run. It was crazy. I was on the run. I don't know how they found me at my wife's house. At that time, she was my baby mother. I don't know how they found me at her house. I always suspected and always felt that my daughter's mother gave them the address. I don't ever know how they knew I was there, because nobody knew I was there. And she was at work, and I was there with my son. And I used to hang out there till it got dark, and then when she come, I'd kick it with her for a little bit, then I bounce at night and run the streets at night. You know what I'm saying? So they came, they knocked on the door, and I looked out the window. I don't know why I went to the window first, but I looked out the window and it was the police outside. I was like, oh my God. So I was like, they already saw me. So they knocking on the door. So I open the door. They come in. And this is why I always say not all police are bad police, man. This is why I always say this. Not all, because I've had my run-in with the law. I've had my run-in with police, man. And some police they understand and they look out. And I told them, I was like, all right, y'all got me. I'm here. I said, my son mother on her way home from work. I said, can y'all just hold off on taking me in until she get home? I just don't want y'all to touch my son. I want to sit here and hold my son before y'all take me in. And they was just like, all right, we won't touch him. You can sit there and hold him. And how long is she gonna come? And she was like, I'll be there in like 15-20 minutes. And they was like, all right. They didn't, and I was cool with them, because most of them would have been jerks. They would have took me, called children's services, all of that. That would have turned into a whole nother crazy thing. So they took me and they booked me. This was my last time doing this, man. And when they closed them doors again, boom, and intake. I was in intake. They closed the doors, boom. It hurt. I felt like the life of me was sucked out. It felt like I lost my life. It was sucked out. So I was like, well, I can't be here again. How am I here again, for real? And I always say that was the shortest bid, but the hardest. It's the shortest bid, but it was the hardest one ever. I was only in the county for like 3 months, and then that's when I said I got the program. They gave me the program. I ended up being in the program for 10 months, but was in the county, in actual jail for 3 months. And that was the hardest thing ever. Because all I kept thinking about was like, my God, my son, my God, my daughter, what am I going to do? And when I met my wife had a child already from a previous relationship. Adriana, who was my daughter as well. Adri was 1 when her mother and I first met. She was 1. She's 15 now. So I've been there since she was a baby. She was in diapers. You know what I mean? Sadly, her biological father hasn't been much involved in her life. I've been there, I remember her taking her first steps. I remember her when she was potty trained, first teeth, first days of school, and all of that, man. I remember these days. I don't never refer to her as my stepdaughter. I don't like that. She's not my stepdaughter. She's my daughter. I always say, when people always ask me how many kids do you have, I always say I got 3 kids. I don't say I got 2 kids and a stepdaughter. Nah, to me that just seems wrong. She's my daughter, and that's just straight like that. But by being in this relationship, it caused friction between my daughter. Well, actually, the friction came from her mother, and a lot of her antics and things that she did, because she had a lot of unresolved issues. First of all, when we met, she had unresolved issues that I wasn't even aware of, and I didn't even take time to figure this out. This is what happens when you just meet somebody, jump in bed with them, and think, oh, okay, people be walking around, people be having stuff that's unresolved trauma, unresolved hurt, unresolved issues that need to be taken care of before you get in a relationship. That'd be baggage. So I feel like a lot of that was unresolved when we met, and not to mention that I was a loose cannon when we was together. I drank a lot, and we used to fight a lot. So that was that caused a lot of issues in the relationship. So when I came home and we didn't get back together when I came out of jail, and I met my wife, I moved on, had a son. In her mind, there was still a lot of stuff that needed to be resolved, and I wasn't even paying attention to that. That was a closed book for me. I just feel as if it was just nothing else there for me, so I could just be a father from a distance. And I never expected things to go the way they did. And this is when I realized things were going for the worst, is when I came home. I was on an ankle bracelet. I was on house arrest. And I went to the store. I was in a outpatient program, and I had to go, part of my parole was I had to go there twice a week while I was on house arrest. So I went to the program. The program decides, they like, hey, let's take a walk to a store. They take a walk to the store, and what store do they pick in Allentown? The store directly across the street from my daughter's house. They go to that store. So I go, and I'm in the store, and I'm looking out the window of the store, and I see my daughter outside. So I'm like, I'm not a scumbag. I'm not gonna sit here and see my daughter and not say nothing. So I go across the street. I tell her mother, yo, listen, I don't want to beef, because the beefing started when my son was born. That's when all that beefing and chaos started. So I say, yo, I don't want no trouble or nothing. I just want to come over here and I see my baby outside. I just want to speak to her. She says, all right, go ahead, you can talk to her. So I talk to her, how you doing? Take her to the store, get her some chips or something, whatever, bring her back across the street. I love you, Monty. I love you, Faith. I'll see you soon, okay? And I go back to the program. The next day, that same night, I went to church. They let me go to church, right? I go to church, midweek Bible study. I leave midweek Bible study. I go home, and I'm walking home, And then when I'm walking home, this is how far out the way I am. I'm like so out of the way, like streets, crime, nothing. I'm not doing nothing. My mind is not even there. I'm like, you know what? I'm done. This is when I really was like, yo, I'm done. I'm walking home and I see the police parked in front of the apartment, in front of the building. I don't pay them in front of the house because it was a house. It wasn't really a building. So I'm like, I'm like, oh, maybe they at the neighbor's house. I ain't paying them no mind. I walked right in, go upstairs. I'm upstairs like 2 minutes. They knock on the door. I see them out through the peephole. I said, oh, maybe they got the wrong apartment because it was a two family apartment. So I'm like, oh, maybe they got the wrong apartment. So I opened the door. Hey, officer, how you doing? And he said, are you Koisha? And when he said that, I was like, oh my God, I'm in trouble. I start thinking something from the past done popped up on me. I start thinking, oh man, they got me for something that I didn't. And he said, I gotta serve you with this order of protection. I was like, order of protection? From who? From what? And then I see the name on it. And then I read the statement. So apparently my daughter's mother when she saw me that day, she knew I was home because she didn't know I was home. So she went down to the police station, filed a false report, and said that when I was stopped at the store, I came over there and I threatened to cut her in the face. Said I was going to cut her in the face. And no, not when I stopped at the store, which this is what saved me. This little piece of information is what saved me from going back to jail. While I was at church, the time that I was at church, she said I called her on the phone and threatened to cut her in the face if she don't let me see my daughter. I was going to cut her, right? So I was like, this is crazy. So the first thing I do, because I know how they play, I gotta call my PO. I called the emergency number. He wasn't picking up. I called his. I left voicemails. So he finally called me back in the middle of the night. He was like, all right, come down in the morning. We'll figure it out. So I was like, oh my God. Come down in the morning. We'll figure it out, huh? So I go down. And he's like, yo. He's like, you know I'm supposed to put you in jail for this. He was like, yo. He was like, yo, you know I'm supposed to lock you up for this. And I'm like, but I didn't do it. And he was like, I don't think you did it. He said, because if I thought you did it, I would have locked you up. But he said, I don't think you did it. You didn't come this far to do something stupid like that. Plus, he said, something in my gut is telling me this is not something you'll do. I don't think you that stupid. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not. So we go to court and we fight it. I had to go to a hearing. He said, I'll leave it based off of the judge. Whatever the judge do, then that's what I'll do. So we go to the hearing. And Deacon Lita is an older white lady that I go to church with. We used to go to church with. She came. I was sitting. It just so happened I was sitting next to her in court. I was sitting next to her in church. And when I was sitting next to her in church, they asked her a simple question: did he call? Did he get up? Did he leave? Did he go make a phone call? And she said no. He was here the whole time. He was sitting next to me. I had my phone records at that time. I didn't have one of these prepaid cell phones. I had a monthly cell phone. I had Sprint. I pulled my phone records and it showed that I hadn't made a phone call since 3:00 that afternoon. And because I don't know if you still can print your phone records. So I got my phone records printed. It showed I had no outgoing, incoming calls or nothing like that. My phone was dry. Thank goodness my phone was dry. And so I gave all that to the judge. The program, one of the people from the program had witnessed an altercation. One time my baby mother pulled up in front of the program wigging out for no reason. They witnessed that. So they came. So people came and spoke up on my behalf because I was doing the right thing at this point in time in my life, and the devil was trying to use her to set me back. So it didn't work. They threw it out. I didn't get violated. Now time goes by. My wife and I, we get married. And things get even worse when I got married. Things got even worse when I got married. Now she's making all kind of outrageous demands, and mind you, I'm on child support. I'm struggling to find a job, a steady job. Child support breathing down my neck. If you don't pay this by this certain date, we're gonna lock you up. All kind of crazy stuff, man. It was rough, man. It was rough. I don't condone men walking away from their children, but there's a fine line between walking away from your children and having to do what's best to protect your home. Because as a husband, you're the priest of your home. You're the spiritual leader of your home or your family. So there was an incident where my son was turning 5. I think he was turning 5 or 4. He might have been turning 4. And we had a birthday party for him. I said, listen, I want Amani to come by to the birthday party. Can I pick her up? Yeah, you can pick her up. Whatever. I picked her up, brought her by. She was there 30 minutes. I remember it was 30 minutes. Her mother called me, yo, listen, I'm coming to pick her up now. I'm taking her to New York. And I'm like, yo, she just got here. She was like, I don't care. I'm picking her up. I'm taking her to New York. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to fight. I have company over. There's other little kids here. You know, we don't want to fight. Okay, you can take it. Because we didn't have no legal custody thing, right? We didn't have that. And so she comes, she takes her up, and I'm outside with her like, yo, why don't you just let her stay? Why are you doing that? She don't want to leave. Just let her stay. She's like, I'm taking her now. So in order to not fight with her mother in front of her, I say, Money, come on, baby. I'm going to go put you in the car. I go to put her in the car, and her mother spit on me. She hog spit on me too, on my back. And I immediately, I couldn't, now mind you, I'm still on parole. I'm not on an ankle bracelet, but I'm still on parole. And I'm like, I can't turn around. Because I turned my back and she spit on me. I said, I can't turn around because if I turn around, I'm going to go off. I'm going to wig out in front of my daughter. She don't need to see that. This is at my doorstep. I don't need to do this. So I couldn't turn. I refused to turn around. I said, just couldn't turn around. Because I know if I'd have looked in her face and then she would have just by looking in her face and then she would have said something, it would have sent me through the roof. I would have lost it. And I would have threw away everything that I had been fighting to get, my family, my job, you know, parole, all. I would have lost, gave everything back at that particular moment because she spit on me. So I just didn't look. Put my daughter in the car, told her how much I loved her, and I spun around a way where I didn't have to look at her. And I just went in the house, and I went in the room, and I began to pray. That's all I could do. That's all I could do. I prayed, and I called my Aunt Dolly. God bless the dead, my Aunt Dolly. I called her instantly, and I told her what just happened. And she gave me a wise, but she said, you know, unfortunately, you may have to step away for a minute. You may have to step away for a minute because she's going to take you there. She's trying to provoke you to go there. So I didn't call him for months. I didn't reach out for months. I just paid my child support. I didn't do nothing for months. Fast forward about a year or so goes by. I'm picking my daughter up for school. Picking her up from school, bringing her home, doing that. Doing all kind of things to go above and beyond to be a father. But it's like, it was that constant thing of trying to separate our relationship. Mind you, now I still got 2 other kids that I live with that I'm responsible for. 2 different upbringings, 2 different, they're in a stable home, even though, it's not a perfect home, but it's a stable environment. It's not different people in and out. It's not that type of thing going on. Now, all the while, my oldest daughter is with her mother still, and she's spewing hatred about me to her, programming her to be the way she wants her to be. And that didn't become evident. Like, I've heard her telling her things before, like over the phone, like, oh, if your father loved you, he would be here with you. Or if your father loved you, he would buy you this $600 coat. Because that was a thing. She called me one time when Amani was like 5 or 6. Oh, I want you to buy her this $600 coat. And I'm like, I don't got no $600 for a coat. I don't even got a $600 coat. My kids don't even got a $600. What are you talking about? And she's like, well, if your father loved you, he'll buy you this coat. I didn't buy the coat, so I guess she told, see, I told you your father don't love you. And this is the type of thing that goes on in the African American community, where people that have hatred in their heart, mothers, they use that as a weapon to weaponize their kids against their fathers, as if it's a form of payback, as if it's a form of get back, when all reality it's detrimental to the child. That should be considered child abuse, in my opinion. That definitely should be considered child abuse. To be able to do that to a child, and it's tragic, it's sad that goes on, but it does. Despite it all, I still always try to do things, still try to show up, still try to include Amani in things. Little trips here. We went to the beach one year. I was able to take her. But it was always that resistance. And as Amani got older, she started to lean towards her mother's way of thinking. This was a hard thing to have to do. This was a hard thing to have to do. Again, with the theatrics, again, with the drama, again, with the outrageousness. I had Amani for a weekend, right? She's older now. And what she was wearing was inappropriate. So I was telling her, it's inappropriate. You can't wear this. She, with the attitude, the mother's attitude, the smacking her teeth, rolling her eyes, telling me what she's gonna do in my house. So I'm like, you're not doing that in my house. We don't condone this kind of dressing the children. We don't have this. And so I disciplined her. I gave her two pops. I gave her 2 pops. Bang bang, my belt twice. And that was the second time in my life I ever had to physically discipline Amani. It was the second time. The first time is when she was little. She did something that was wrong, and I disciplined her then. It was not a problem. And this time, it was a problem. Her mother called children and youth on me, called this child services on me, and they pulled my other kids out of school, was questioning them. So I was furious. I called them immediately when I heard this. I spoke to the person taking care of it, and this is how God works. When you're not doing nothing wrong, when your motives are pure and they're from a righteous place, God is going to always have your back. He's going to always have your back, and that's for sure. The guy told me, he was like, listen, man, you ain't do nothing wrong, man. You ain't do nothing wrong. You disciplined your daughter. We need more of that. He said, but by law, I have to investigate it. Legally, I have to investigate it. And I'm going to tell you like this, it's nothing found. It's nothing found. There's no marks on her. It's nothing. You don't abuse. Nothing. And when that happened, I was angry. I was really angry because my daughter went along with it. She could have easily said, no, my father doesn't abuse me. She could have went along with that. She went along with that. And I had to turn my back. I had to turn my back because I said, this could have cost me my relationship with my 2 other kids. It could have cost me my everything I worked so hard to build. My wife at the time she was working for the school district, and she could have lost her job behind that because she's a required reporter, which means like if she sees or knows about child abuse, she's required by law to report it or she'll lose her job. So it was a rough time. So that made me put up a wall towards them, because I was like, that showed me that she was following her mother's way of thinking, her mother's conditioning and stuff like that. So I just had to step away, man. I thought it was best to step away. That was a difficult decision, man. You know, to have to love my child from a distance. To have to say, you know what? I love you, but it's gonna be from a distance. But I did it. Do I wish things differently could have been different? Of course I wish things could have been done differently. Like, I feel like I was put in a position to choose. Right? I feel like I was put in a position to choose which children that I'm gonna love the most. And as a black man, sometimes the court systems, they don't work in our favor. The court system don't always work in our favor. At this time now, she's at an age where she has the choice. Because the way that, at least I know in Lehigh County, Pennsylvania, the way that they do it when you go for custody and stuff like that, the child, once they're a certain age, the child has a choice whether they want to go with you or not. And at this time, she was at that age where she had a choice. So I didn't spend the money because it was like almost $400 to go just to get a petition to go before the judge. And I didn't spend the money, which is something I regret doing. I should have did it anyway, just to make sure that I took every step. But I didn't do that because I looked at it as she's under her mother's influence so much, she's not going to want to come. So I'm not going to even waste the money. But that's something I wish I could have did differently. Because I'm not going to sit here and say, yo, I've been a perfect father. And this is being 100% transparent, man. It's being 100% transparent. I learned from all of this, man. I learned a lot of life lessons from this, man. I'm more focused on making sure that my other two children continue to follow the path of the Lord. You know, I try to get Imani in church. She don't want to do it. I try to get her to come to church with us. She don't want to do it. So it's okay. You know, I pray for her daily. I even pray for her mother too. You know, I pray for them both. I feel at peace with a lot of these situations, you know, because I've took it to the Lord in prayer and things have always played out the way they've played out. I prayed about this for years, man. For years I've been on my knees about this. You know, this ain't, and it played out the way it's going, where it played out. And I try to counsel young brothers, man, that are coming up, that are going through the same issues. Because first of all, you know, whenever young men I know say, hey, I'm having a baby or I got a baby on the way, I tell them all the time, listen, women change after they have kids. Women change after they have kids. Prepare yourself for that. Because nobody told me that about postpartum depression or postpartum depression. I'm not sure what it's called, but I know that depression that women go through after they have a baby. That's a real thing. That's a fact. I lived it. It really happens. They go through it, and you got to be patient with them. I didn't know that. Nobody told me that you got to be patient with them. I just looked at it as, oh, you changed on me, this, that, and the third, and, you know, it's now we're not getting along. Nah, it's not. To men that are in a similar situation where the baby mother's playing games with the kids, man, I learned that no matter what your situation may be like, you should still go to court for it, because you just never know what the outcome will be. Don't look at it like, oh, it's a waste of time, or I'm not going to have a shot. They're not going to give me a shot. At the time, I looked at it as I'm on parole. I'm a felon. They're not going to do nothing. They're not going to look out for me. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money, because you got to pay to do that out here. So I was just like, you know what? I ain't going to do it. I ain't going to get, you know, I've been through war with child support, man. A lot of war with them, man. There's times I'm telling them, listen, y'all not gonna do me like this. You know, I had to go before a judge with that, you know, get things changed, modified, all of that, man. I've had taxes garnished, all of that, man. It's just all kind of stuff, man. Credit affected, because they put that on your credit. Yeah, so it's like, now they don't even bother me. They don't even bother me down there no more. They just, they get their payments. I'm steady working. I'm stable. They get their payments. That's it. That's it, man. So, I felt like I wanted to do this episode. There's so much more I wanted to speak on and touch on that I didn't yet. But I felt like I needed to do this episode for my brothers that's out here, because it's rough out here trying to be, co-parents. Some people got it easy. Some people don't. Some people get put through the ringer for it, man. I encourage brothers, don't give up, man. Don't give up. Keep fighting, no matter what they say. No matter what they say. I went through an issue yesterday, and it's crazy because I was already had a plan to do this episode called Fatherhood. This episode was going to be about fatherhood, and I went through an issue yesterday trying to be a father. It doesn't stop, man. It doesn't stop. You just keep doing your part. Keep doing your part and trusting in the Lord, and it's going to work out, man. Trust me, it's going to work out. I have faith that the Lord is going to move on my behalf to soften my daughter's heart around me, because I didn't do nothing wrong, though. It's not like I just said, you know what, I'm leaving, I'm done. I ain't ready to be a father. I'm not doing that. I didn't do that. I went through so much trying to actually be a father. It just didn't work out that way. And one day when I stand before the Lord, I'm going to ask him, why didn't it work out like that? Because the Bible says when you get to heaven, all the mysteries will be revealed. So that's a big mystery. I wonder, why didn't you allow that to work out like that? Was it something I did? Was it, why did it play out that way? But that's it, man. That's it for this episode. Being a father is a blessing. I wouldn't trade it in. I got 17 years in, and I got more to go. And I look forward to the being a grandfather one day. I look forward to the first dance at the wedding. I look forward to all kind of stuff. The high school graduations, mentoring my kids once they become adults. You know what I mean? Truth be told, I'm on my wife right now. I want another one. She's like, what? You want to start all over? I do. I really want to start all over. Diapers and everything. Formula, all of that. I want to start over. Because I feel like when I was at that stage with my kids, I was still reckless and I didn't really get to enjoy it. And that's a precious time that we need to enjoy. So listen, I'm signing off. Thanks again for tuning in. Appreciate y'all. Grown Man Talk, Quasi the Artist.